What up? What up? What up? It's the Sean P experience. We are right back like we never left, man. Episode 4 is right now. I got an awesome, awesome guest. My man Trey, Gary Trey Taylor, man, licensed social worker. Not many of us brothers in the space, so this is very, very important people in the room right now. You know what I'm saying? So we got a very good show lined up for you guys. Talking about his brand new book, Refresh: The Journey to Find Peace. Bro, this is the way to close out. For me, closing out the year, this is the one to close out the year right here. This is the way to do it. Amazing book. Besides him being the homeboy and knowing him for a long time, forget all of that. If I just picked this up randomly, it was a very hard hitting to the chest kind of book, and it's gonna be a good show talking about it, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me on, Sean, man. It's been a minute, man. I'm glad to see all your success and everything you're doing with this podcast experience. And just happy to be here, man, and glad that you enjoyed the book. So I'm anxious to, get into it and talk about it.
Yeah, man, yeah. So before we get into the bells and whistles, let me get a proper introduction to my man, Gary Trey Taylor is a licensed clinical social worker in a private practice. He has over 11 years of experience in the field of mental health, and this is his self-help memoir, Refresh: Journey to Find Peace. He discusses the day-to-day struggles that most people face but rarely ever speak about. Today we're gonna do it. We're gonna speak about it. So today on the Sean P experience, we always have a good time. We cut up, we clown, we still scholars, but we get it in. But today's show will be different. It's gonna be a very, very a more grounded, a more serious show. It's a serious topic. I never say that any show is for any particular genre, but any guys out there, please, guys, tap in. Any ladies watching this, man, send the video to the guys in your life, your sons, nephews, uncles, cousins, whoever. We need to talk about these topics, right?
Yeah.
So before we get into the hot and heavy, deep kind of conversation, let's keep it loose at the beginning. I know through the book, you had a hip hop verse in every chapter almost, kind of would embody the chapter. I want to know the influence and the importance of hip hop in your life, and it is a 50th year of hip hop. So
Right.
it's about hip hop in your life, but also the influence of hip hop on your writing, on your pen. Talk about that for a little.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a co-author for this book, right? And it's my man Saint Yvonne. And he's a full-time writer. You need to go check him out as well. He just did his Coffee and Clarity series on Amazon. You can go check that out as an ebook. Dope writer. I love everything about what he brings to the table. So when we got together to write this book, I wanted to incorporate the hip hop that and the music that influenced me and what I was influenced by at the time during these certain situations in my life. And of course, I'm definitely spiritual and I believe in Christ, and I'm definitely heavy in the church and leadership and things like that as a deacon and young adult, leadership member. But this was like me before I got heavy into church or trying to find myself during, my Christian walk. And so those songs and certain lyrics were like soundtracks to certain times in my life. And so, how you can listen to a song way back or hear it now, and you like, yo, take you back to that certain time in your life. And so some of those lyrics that you see in there are like specific to that actual chapter or that moment or that situation that I'm talking about and what I was going through in those moments. And so I think that, hip hop has always been an integral part of my life, growing up and continuing as I get older. Even though I'm not heavy into it like I used to, I still check with my favorite artists and, things like that. But, those soundtracks to our lives, right? When we're growing up, high school era, or then going to college and then undergraduate, graduate, those are moments in time that, define who we are as a people or as a person or what we do. So that's why it's been important to me. That's why I want to throw it in the book. And that's why I throw it in there with the scriptures as well. This is a real life, what this person that is, heavily involved in his faith, but also struggling at times. This is what he's going through. This is what he's dealing with. This is what got him through.
I always say for me as a writer, the hip hop people of our generation, they're the ones that got me interested in reading and writing and trying to build my vocabulary. And
Right.
Nas and AZ and Core Mega and Jay Z, obviously biggest. Some of these guys made me want to look up words. Like, wait a minute, he said that word.
Yeah.
What was that? Like, it wasn't Toni Morrison. It wasn't James Baldwin. It wasn't Maya Angelou. Respect to all of them, but as
Right.
far as me and my generation, like those guys made me want to read and write way more than the classical traditional scholars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Which is crazy to me though, because none of like hip hop in a sense didn't inspire the writing aspect for me, right? Because I don't like to write. I hated writing. I sucked at writing throughout high school and undergraduate, and like just trying to find different ways to write and kind of help. And so that's why I got a co-author on this one where he's doing the writing, but we also collaborate on the writing and the ideas of what's happening. And so that was a way. I know I was super busy where I couldn't get into it, but I could still, tell my story in a creative way that I thought that this writer, Saint Yvonne, would be able to do so versus me. Because I write from it depends on what type, I do creative writing, but then I also do that technical writing that's academic in the sense, right? So it's hard to shift from that. But I'll be honest with you, like for you, I understand you, like you say, from hip hop and how it, created you from writing and define those words. For me, hip hop was just that soundtrack to my life. And so that's how I looked at it. So I was like, okay, how can I give that reader an experience where you see this lyric or this track and that applies to this chapter or situation. So it was like that soundtrack. It was like almost like a movie, I
Yeah,
would say. So I look at it from
yeah.
that creative side of the movie
You know,
soundtrack.
so much of our culture, you be in a regular conversation, and a person might say a certain word, and you go into a whole verse. I
Yeah,
do it all
yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah.
My friends like, "Someone really, bro, you can do that, right?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"What is this?"
Yeah, you be saying the same, the next thing you know, you bust out to a whole rap verse, things like that. And so, but then it also triggers those emotions, those experience, and things like that. So, I mean, I think that's what hip hop is for us,
It's
man.
our
Like,
culture, man. It's
it's
our
our
culture,
soundtrack
man.
to our life
It's
sometimes.
our soundtrack, right?
Yeah,
So if you don't mind sharing, who are some of your favorite hip hop guys? If you don't mind sharing that.
yeah. So, shoot, man, I got a bunch, man. But of course, Jay-Z is one of my favorites. Jay-Z, Wale, Currency, J. Cole, Big Crit, um, who else? Those are like Wayne, what I'm saying? That was one, back in that time. And then Drake, stuff like that. Those are like kind of my top tier ones. You know what I'm saying? I still, I got some old school. I do some old school stuff as well. But if you want to go, I always go by like, okay, what's the most like the most music that you have in your computers or your
Yeah,
file,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you'll
yeah.
see most of those
Got
artists in my rotation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Do you have any? We probably a similar age, you and I, around the same age. Do you have anybody you like that's current, like current artists, current hip hop? You think it's any of that?
Currently, with the new age, I guess, not too. I mean, I like Griselda, stuff like that. I like Griselda gang. Yeah, I like Griselda. Um, you
Yes,
know,
yes, and yes. On the
um,
4P experience, yeah, Griselda. Yes.
yeah, I mess with Griselda, man. Even like, it's this cat, man. It's a Christian artist too. The rapper called 1K Few. I think I said it right, but he's dope too, man. He's just new age guy as well.
See, I'm glad you said that. I wasn't gonna bring it up. I was kind of thinking about it, but like Christian hip hop, and you are a man of God on your godly walk. So am
Yeah.
I. You know what I mean? So like, tell me about Christian hip hop. Do you listen to it? Do you like it? Do you really tap into that bag? And what's your take on Christian hip hop?
I enjoy it. I mean, I'm a big fan of that too. I got Christian artists that I usually typically tap into, but mostly it's been like Lecrae and Andy Mineo. What well back it was like Trip Lee, some a little bit of propaganda, but that's my wife's kind of bag, because she like more of the spoken word type stuff. But I do like Christian hip hop, and I mean, as a Christian and a believer, like of course, I want the old praise and worship music and stuff like that, but to kind of help with that transition, you know, I need
Yeah,
some of that
yeah.
boom bap, those bass,
And
those 808s, that raps and stuff like that.
you
Um,
know, I know two pastors, real personally, man, and both of these guys are dope artists. They're dope hip hop artists. But
yeah,
now they're doing Christian hip hop. They got Christian albums. So you're a pastor in the pulpit. You still got bars though. So
Yeah.
I asked them in private, like, what's that walk like? The perception of being the pastor. Some of the old guard of Christianity, the old guard of church,
Mhm.
have two words rhyme together. They got a consistent beat. They, oh man, turn that off. It's some old, turn that off. Like, but the new generation you're trying to reach, the
Yeah.
new parishioners, you're trying to go into the community. You're going into the jails. You're going into the streets. You gotta resonate where they at. You gotta talk. You gotta talk to them where they can get it. You know what I'm saying?
You got to meet them where they at, man.
Yeah, you know
We
where they
got a few spoken word guys in our church too that have that hip hop rap background, but bring Christ into it, and it's a dope experience to see. And so I think as long as it's being utilized in the right way, that you can and you're not diluting the message or the word, I think it's fine. You know what I'm saying? And you got to meet people where they're at. But then again, even with that, like what I'm saying, that still has to be genuine. It still doesn't have to. If you're taking away from the word, then yeah, it's going to be a problem. But if you're not taking away from it, it is what it is. So I like to mix it up a lot. You know what I'm saying? I tell people a lot of times, I'm definitely a Christian, but I still listen to some, that music, and I still have my praise and worship and my Christian music. I don't listen to everything. If you go back, some of the stuff in the book is like from past. It's like some wild stuff, right? And then
at.
the stuff that I was listening to way back then as a teenager is some wild stuff. And,
Right,
but some of that stuff I can't listen to no more just because of where I'm at in my life now. It just don't resonate with me no more.
right,
So you had that transition in hip hop too, and
yeah,
what you allow in your actual body and your soul and your mind. You know what I'm saying? So that's
mm,
definitely important.
mm,
Definitely important. If you can't
right,
separate it, then
right,
it's going to be a
right.
problem because you're going to intake it and move off of that. You know what I'm saying? So that's
Yes,
also
sir.
too why I listen to music still, but it's I just go with my folks that I rock with and some new
Yeah,
stuff, but I don't go too deep because it don't sit with me no more like it used to. And that's the
yeah.
transition piece.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I don't want to gloss over this. So I am a coffee connoisseur. Back to our lightness.
Yeah.
I'm a coffee head, bro. I'm a coffee head.
What's
Not
up
the
with it? I
first
love
time
that.
coffee has come up here on the page. I love talking about coffee, right? So tell me, what's your drink of choice? First of all, drink of
We talk
choice.
about for coffee.
Yes, sir.
Well, look, I just bought an espresso machine
Come
for my
on, bro.
birthday.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Bro, we are so kindred. It's
yeah.
scary. Bro, my whole
Yeah.
book, all of my notes is like, bro, you got to be kidding me.
That's wild, right?
You got to be
Yeah.
kidding me.
I
It's
just bought
scary,
an espresso machine, bro. That joint's been
bro.
like love,
My best
love.
purchase all year was the espresso maker. The best purchase.
Yeah, yeah. That joint elevated
Come
my
on,
whole coffee jump.
come
But
on. Gotta
but
get bougie now. We bougie.
yeah.
I got a certain kind of
Exactly.
beans, certain kind of beans, the bean grinder. I'm going in.
Yeah, I bought the whole setup, man. I researched that jump for like at least a month and a half and found like the one I wanted, the espresso machine, the grinder, I even got the little espresso thing setup jump where it has like your puck, your
Uh-huh.
screen, the
Uh-huh.
extra porta-filter,
You talking
all
that
of
talk?
that.
You talking that
Yeah.
talk? Now that's no question. Do you make your own froth? Do you make your own froth? Are
my
you
wife,
frothy?
my wife got a frother. She do that. I don't really mess with the frother too much.
I've been on there lately. You know what? Off the air, I'll give you a little tip. I'll give you a little tip off the air.
Okay,
I'm gonna go
okay.
on that right now.
Yeah.
But no, like yourself, man. My grandparents pretty much raised me in a large way. Being with them. So being a
Right.
little child with my grandfather, they give you the little coffee with the little carnation milk in it, whatever. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? But like,
Yep.
I think the taste of that and the smell of that just brings me to that nostalgia so strong. Because at this point in my life, it's not really keeping me up. I drink
No.
it because of the taste, the smell, and yes, my grandfather's still alive and well. He's not gone, but
Right.
just my closeness to him and my affinity for him, something about coffee is just a strong connection to my grandparents.
Yeah, same. I mean, I was, blessed to have my great grandparents, and so that's who introduced me to coffee when I was, like young, around 5, 6, or whatever. So I've been drinking since then, trying to be like Big Daddy. And Big Daddy would have the salsa and
Yeah, come
little
on
cup
now.
of coffee.
Yeah,
Do it want to be just like him, you know what I'm saying? So I took it and ran with it, you know what I'm saying,
yes,
and
sir.
been drinking ever since and just kind of just expanding my palate with it.
Yeah,
I still want to. I really didn't even know how deep the coffee world gets there. I
come
started
on,
looking
bro.
up espresso machines,
It's a
and I
universe.
was like,
Universe.
oh, I'm a novice still.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It goes into the water temperature, the water type.
yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of science going through it, right?
Yeah. And
So,
so, but for me though, like I do at some point want to own my own coffee shop. So like,
me too. See what I'm
yeah,
saying? Bro, come on, bro. Come
right.
on, bro.
We right here, bro. We right here.
I've been 8 years saying this. I want my own coffee shop slash bookstore. I got the name of the spot and everything already in my mind. I got the whole layout already laid out.
That's crazy, bro. Like mine's is like gonna be like a coffee shop slash sneaker shop, but
Wow. I like that.
um, and
I
I'm
like
gonna
that.
also
I like
incorporate like cars or something into it. I don't know how I'm gonna do it just yet, but
that.
that's what I'm gonna do. You know, that's
That's
one of
right.
my things I
That's
want to
right.
do.
So, real quick, since the pandemic, everything closed down, right? So I couldn't go to my favorite coffee shops. So
Right.
that's when I started really, really studying on YouTube and Instagram and other places. Started going hard on coffee pages, learning how to make my own caramel macchiatos and americanos and my favorite
Yeah.
lattes, learning how to do it myself, and having some former Starbucks employees for friends to be able to show me like, man, just go
Nice.
to Target and buy this, go to Walmart, buy that. All you need is this, and then schooling me on
Yeah.
how to make my own drinks, man. Ever since 3 or 4
Yeah.
years on, bro, I be getting it in.
That's dope. Like, so for me, like I just we had went through different transitions where I went from the pot coffee to like the Keurig to I started doing pour over for a little bit and then went back to the kind of the pot coffee and and then I just got to the point where I was like, I'm getting tired of the pot coffee. I want to kind of try the espresso machines. I want to try something different. I used to work at Starbucks in the hospital, but just never could get all this stuff down. And so I was like, well, I want to try my hand and try to make my own stuff. And so what I'm gonna probably do here soon is I want to start making my own drinks like for my friends like on the weekends. Like so get the cups, get all the sauces, everything, start making them junks and see what I come up with. Because the coffee that I use is Black and Bold. I don't know if you know about those Black and Bold brewers. Um
I know about it.
black
I know
on
about it.
yeah, black on
Oh,
brewers, black on roasters, man. It's probably one
yes,
of the
sir.
best coffees that I've ever had. I got
Wow.
another spot
Mm-hmm.
up in Maryland that my publisher who did my books, she had her own coffee company. She was making her own beans and it's called Sweetie's Coffee. And it's some
Ooh.
good coffee that she's made.
Ooh.
That
You got
is
an
like
old beans?
yeah, she had her own
That's
beans. So she
that's next
had the
level. That's
publishing
next
company
level.
and then her own beans.
That,
And then I do also the coffee company, the Black Coffee Company too. I haven't had them in a while, but Black Coffee Company out in Atlanta,
yes,
um,
sir. Yes,
they
sir. Yes,
solid
sir.
as well. So, and then
That's
I
right.
met a roaster in my home area that allows you to kind of make your own roast, but I just
Really?
never follow up with them as well because they do
You
it,
gotta holler at
in
that,
house.
man.
Yeah,
I feel
so it's a lot of
yeah.
opportunity. I just want to get more in depth with it for sure.
Yeah, me too. Me too. We got Resist Booksellers in the building right now. Shout out Demetrius Fraser out there. Black owned bookstore, Resist Books. And my man Trey will be on Resist.
Yeah, what's up,
Doing the art spot.
Demetrius?
Yeah, Demetrius, awesome, awesome people. And a fellow coffee guy. He had a whole live last year breaking down coffee, different machines, different practices
Oh,
on
I can't wait to talk with him.
on a Resist page, man. Holler at them with the coffee, bro. So yeah, let's get into the main event. So first of all, once again, some more likeness. I'm in the mental health space. You in the mental health space. Both of us know it's not many brothers in that space.
Yeah.
My whole time being in college, I probably one of the only guys in the room for a lot of my classes. When I graduated, it seemed like a Delta convention. I'm looking to my right and to my left. I ain't seeing no fellas. Like I'm
Yeah.
in the wrong building. And then in the actual field, most places where I work at, I'm almost one of the only guys on the staff, right? So tell me about why you decided to come into the mental health space as a brother and the importance of us in those spaces, man.
Yeah. So it's actually some of what I'm trying to do now while I'm transitioning. So it's crazy how time like life moves and stuff. Like so when I wrote the book, I was in private practice. But I just recently shut that down in September, where I was working with mostly black men and black women. And I did that for about 3 years. But what happened is you know, when I became a social worker, it was when my homegirl, shout out to Dr. Ashley Elliott, we call her Dr. Vivid. Y'all go check her out. She does amazing stuff. She's a clinical psychologist. And I was at VCU and I was in business and I was minoring in psychology. And I was like, man, I don't want to do clinical counseling psychology, but I do want to know, I want to help people. I want to know, move in that space of helping people. And didn't want to become a therapist at first, but somehow landed there. And then she was like one of the ones that kind of encouraged me to kind of go into psychology as a major. And as I was looking forward it, I was like, man, well, shoot, I don't know if I want to do I don't know if I want to do psychology that way. I'm gonna check into social work. That's how I got into social work 101, did a class and fell in love with social work because I saw the different opportunities. And so that took me to George Mason and got to George Mason. I looked around and see a lot of folks look like me, you know what I'm saying? But there was diversity. And so I bonded with a couple folks that, you know what I'm saying, that, that's outside. I think like this, we had different, races and ethnicities. George Mason is pretty diverse. But I got into the space and I looked around, like you said, like maybe it was one of 5 Black men on my cohort to graduate that was, there in that space. And, in Virginia, when I came out and graduated, right, it's not like you kind of got to fold into clinical work. And that's how I, went. And my first grad job, still, like, it was me and a bunch of women. Of course it was white women and some Black women, things like that. So that's why I fell with the Black women on that side. But I still had great relationships with white women there as well. But they was, we built a kind of a strong camaraderie. But yet again, the only Black male social worker there, I had one white guy that came on, and there was 2 of us. But and so we just never, kind of got into that space. And I was like, man, then I just kept seeing it, and I really saw it the full scope. And I was like, we do not have a lot of Black male therapists. I think it's like 4% or less than 4% of Black male therapists. And then I just kind of got on the train around Black mental health. But I was like, if we're gonna do Black mental health, but we don't have a lot of Black providers, then there's a problem. And so I kind of just, really just, I've been trying to search since I graduated, trying to figure out how can I recruit more brothers into this space, right? And I really figured out a way. Was one of the ways is just getting academia. So I took a position last year at Virginia State University, Department of Social Work, became an assistant professor. And that's one way how, and it's not a lot of Black male professors. Like, so I'm used to being in this space.
No.
We just don't see each other. But what
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Oh, no. And so I've been used to that. But what I've been doing too over the pandemic, gift and a curse, has been connecting with other brothers in social work across the United States. So I got a collective. Shout out to my guys and my brothers in social work collective, Dr. James Bell and Chris Scott, my guys in Fab 5, which is them, and then my man Josh McNeil, he's about getting ready to be a doctor. My guy Jabri Harris, and we just connected and just supported our own selves, and then built then we came to part of social work Twitter and social work different places. So that's how we built that camaraderie around the world due to being close. And so as a result of that, that's where that networking comes in, and that's where we start to build these silos. And so I ended up taking a job at Virginia State, working in the Master Social Work program. My collective works with different universities to recruit and retain Black male social work students, things like that. And then trying to figure out different ways and approaches on how to meet those guys who maybe do the community-based work or already help, already mentor, already do these things, and say, okay, hey, listen, well, look, if you come do our program, you get licensed or become a master's level in social work, and you can affect change at a higher level, right? But also these programs have to learn how to sustain and help support those individuals, those Black men too, because again, it's not a lot of Black men representation. So this has been 5-10 years in the making of trying to figure that out and kind of work with different areas and different avenues to try to make it happen. But it's very, very important to me. And you'll probably see next year, I'll probably be going full throttle more with that piece on how to support and recruit and retain, Black men in this space.
Yes, sir. May have a similar experience, but my time in the field, I mean, so many parents that was just so like, thank God we found somebody. Like, they wanted their young Black child to have a Black male therapist.
Yeah.
And most of that therapist that they had prior to was like some white woman coming to their house knocking.
Yeah.
Here to see Lil Terrell, they kind of like, not saying that it's not possible and they can't help, but they want somebody that look like them, talk like them, walk like them, really, really understand our culture and our dynamics coming to their house twice a week. You know what I'm saying?
And the flip side of that too, though, is that because it's not a lot of us, it's easier to burn out too, which is a tough balance. And
Ooh,
so,
bro, you know why? The places I worked at, we would all do our rounding every week to like discuss our caseload.
mhm,
Any person sitting around the circle that described their most difficult clients, my supervisor, she said, you know what? Let's let Sean have.
yeah,
So most of us had that one client where it's like, man, Tuesday at 2 o'clock, gotta go see so and so.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had a caseload of those though, not just one. Because
Exactly. See,
I've taken on everybody else's person.
but see, that's the thing. And see, so when I do trainings around working with, like, so I'm doing 2 trainings. I'm doing a training next month with a department engaging Black men in social work and therapy. And one of the things I talk about is, all right, because a lot of times because we're the minority, because we don't have a lot of Black male therapists or Black male clinicians, we automatically, our white counterparts sometimes will take that Black client and just, okay, we're difficult, put them on the Black therapist. And unintentionally, we accept that because we like, you know what, it makes sense, culture, competence, things like that, and it makes sense. But again, like you said earlier, we might not be a good fit, or we might already be burnt out. And the question I always ask is, why can't you, as the white clinician who is also should not be having any bias, shouldn't having any counter transference or things like that, are bound by the same principles that I am, why can't you work with that client? You feel what I'm saying? Why do you have fear or bias, or you feel like you struggle with that client?
And
Is
bro,
it because that client is challenging, or is it because you have a bias or fear?
we getting the same paycheck, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got an
I don't
easy caseload. I got the difficult caseload. We getting the same paycheck. Like, no, that's not
right.
fair at all,
Right.
bro. That's not fair at all.
Yeah. And so I challenge that narrative because I don't have no other problem working with other races or ethnicity. It's not an issue for me. Even
And
though
I would add,
yeah.
I don't know what it would look like to go to the supervisor's office and not, what's wrong, Sean? Well, you know, this certain client I have, they're of a certain different other background. I don't feel that comfortable. That might not go over well for me if I
Yeah.
had that complaint. But they can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one thing I that's a component I've added on, because there's no way we can put the onus on Black clinicians when we don't represent the masses enough to meet the demand and need of these individuals who need therapy or need mental health treatment. So you're going to have to learn how to work with them to make this thing happen. It takes years to get a fully licensed professional, So I, I didn't mean to take that on a tangent with everything because we talking
No,
about the book, but
this is important. This is important for the book. This is
yeah,
important
but that's a
background.
very, 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 very stark reality for a lot of Black clinicians. And again, doing this work is heavy lifting. And so if we want to keep clinicians in the space, right, and working and thriving, then we got to figure out a more sustainable approach to it.
I would even say in the halls of academia, whenever I have been in the school space, because of the lack of males, once again, and the lack
Right.
of Black males, any school I go and sub at or go and be a part of their staff, the whole school is like you the automatic disciplinarian for the whole school,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
once again not my role.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
Or
automatically you the male, you the guy. So this little Johnny cutting up in the hallway, man, go talk to Mr. Sean. Like, what?
yeah, you the security, right? You the
You
security
become the
because
security.
and I used to get that all the time because I was, tall and lean, and it was like, okay, well, we got 2 big guys on the unit now, or we got 2 big guys at the clip to go talk to the conversation, and sometimes people will mistake me for being a security, or whatever, versus being a clinician. Oh, you hear that? It's like, so those type of biases too that continue to exist in that space, and I even hear from students in academia going through social work programs that sometimes they have to be the one to speak on all Black issues in class to the professor. So the professor looks at them to explain the Black experience in this space. That's not fair to the student. The student is coming to you. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to know that, especially in the social work
Bro,
space or a
bro,
counseling space or a healthcare space. And the student is, you looking to that student to explain that experience and speak upon that. That to me right there speaks
bro.
to a bigger issue. You know what I'm saying?
I just realized something. We need a whole show on this. We need a whole
Yeah,
separate show just on this because this is
bruh.
too good. It's too good and it's important. It's
Yeah,
important. It
yeah,
has to be talked about out loud in the public. This is all private, little whisper conversation. This is important stuff.
yeah. Me and my collective, man, and my guys in Fab Five, we don't hold back from it. We always talking about it. So if you go to any one of their pages or go to, whatever, we already been screaming this stuff to the mountaintop with it because,
Yeah, I need to
again,
come and join the Fab Five, be off the bench, the six
off
man, because off the
the
bench, yeah, the six man,
yeah,
because I gotta have some of this conversation, bro. But this is a good transition. You mentioned being tall, lean, and handsome and all that good stuff. Let's go to the basketball, bro. The
yeah.
basketball world, right? So this is an important topic. Once again, I don't know if everybody can relate to it, but
Mm,
the basketball identity that most of us have as a youth,
yeah,
you go into young adulthood or adulthood, and how much of a hold that still have on you, and
yeah,
some of the drawbacks to that. Your chapter one was like I'm the whole time underlining, highlighting everything. That was my exact journey, my affinity for basketball, and then me trying to do it after high school in
yeah.
various ways and trying to hold on to that. Like I can relate to that.
Man, it was so freeing. I just came from hooping last night, man. Great. I'm still feeling in there. But and it's crazy because I was talking to my wife about it, man. And I was just like, man, I sat back and I was like, dang, I've been playing basketball for 30 years, right? I'm 35 and I've been playing basketball since I was 5 years old. And it's like, that wear and tear comes in. And you know what I'm saying? It's like, so like to see LeBron and all them boys still playing, even though they got $1 million budgets. But it's like, yo, that's a lot of mileage, man, because they've been playing this as long. But I know basketball's been my first love, man. And, all of us have hoop dreams, going if you playing and stuff like that. I still say that, I think if I had like trained a little bit harder, did a little bit more, kind of put myself in different places, a little bit more uncomfortable places than what I was, then I probably could have done something. But, I ain't gonna say I'm the best. Even when that chapter comes out, I tell people all the time, I'm not saying that I was this great basketball athlete. I'm not saying that I was this, that, and the third and all that, a bag of chips. I was just saying that I had a hunger for the game. I could keep up with the ones that could hoop. You know what I'm saying? And so, and so I thought that, with that I could translate. And I tried, but like I said, I put forth a little bit more effort, something maybe could have translated. But it wasn't until like when that part in the chapter where I talk about, when I'm talking to my therapist and I'm playing with this chip on my shoulder after work in my 30s. And I'm like, yo, what is this for? What is this about? And I'm in therapy and we're processing. And my therapist was like, yo, who are you playing for? And I was like, shoot. And I reflected back and I was like, oh, I'm wilding. And it was so profound that it opened up. It made the game fun for me again because I was playing with so much animosity and trying to prove and risking injury and coming in the house sore. And I had a family, and it was like, and I'm competitive by nature, but it allowed for me once I checked that joint, like I could just play free. It don't matter. I just love playing. And I got me back to just playing the game that I love so much. But because you want this thing so bad, right? And you want to succeed so bad, and that's all you know most of your life, right? And they are key moments, key experiences that you have had where you felt the failure or you didn't make a team or you're not getting any playing time or this person's supposed to be not better than you, but they get more playing time. And I quit basketball, all these different things that define my basketball experience. And it's like, that's just one chapter of this your story, right?
Yeah,
That's just one
yeah.
chapter, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's not the end all be all. So
No, but let's kind of tease out a little bit, right?
Mm.
And make a general comparison. I see a lot of guys of recent generation playing ball and stuff like that. Like our commitment and dedication and overall love of the game made it to that extreme level. But
Yeah.
on the polar opposite side of that, I see so many kids that's playing the game now. Supposedly they love the game, but it's like you don't even watch the game.
Yeah.
I have more kids. How many games you watch a year? You're watching YouTube clips. You're watching TikTok reels. They're not watching 2.5 hour basketball games.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
we sat and watched 3 and 4 games a night, the whole game, college, pros, the whole joint.
We know.
They watching clips.
Yeah.
They never seen a full LeBron James basketball game.
My wife jokes about it because she tell because me and my cousin will get in here and we'll start just running off stats and numbers and such and such played here. He's from this hometown and you remember his high school tape. We students of the game, man. And
Yeah,
that's one thing I told my
it's so
homeboy.
serious.
Yeah, for my homeboy Chris, man, we was having a conversation about where the game is at, what's going on, and the players now. And I think we're in good hands. I think we got some good
Yeah,
hands
yeah,
that
sure.
once everybody kind of moves out the way, Braun and them boys, they get gone. I think we're in good hands. But the issue is, I think that we are pushing more of the raw talent and less of the IQ. That you got to have IQ to get to the league, of course. But when we talk about students of the game that can process and make those decisions and learn and process those things, that's kind of being pushed to the side, and we just going off the raw talent and athleticism. And we all know that can only take you so far. Like
Right.
I'm
Because
feeling it now at 35, trying to still play. Like I gotta be more savvy than
yeah,
athletic than what I used to
yeah,
be.
yes. And what I'm getting to the heart of it is the heart you have for the game, the determination, the will. So Kevin Garnett, Ray Lewis type stuff, right? To make a
Yeah,
comparison, like my barber told me his like 9-year-old son. He's a coach as well. My barber, that is. He's driving his son home from the game. His son in the back seat, like sniffering, like crying. Lost the championship game.
yeah,
He on some old school, like, man, stop all that wine. What's wrong with you? And his son was like, well, daddy, I wanted to take a picture with you with the championship trophy. That's what I wanted. Like, what's wrong with me crying? I couldn't get this moment with you with the trophy.
right.
I said, you know what? I am so glad your son cried behind the game. Because whenever I was a kid growing up, I took losses seriously, bro.
Yeah,
I took losses like I was devastated, bro.
yeah.
But I see a
Same.
lot of kids behind me coming up. They can lose a nail biter, and the next conversation, like, man, where we gonna eat at? We going to Chick-fil-A? We going to
Yeah,
Raise the Cane's? Like, they on the next thing. Y'all
yeah,
playing the game tonight? They ain't even thinking about they just lost this close game. I'm like, do y'all even care about the game? Do you even love the game? Like,
yeah. It's a difference though, man.
it's,
Too,
it's,
I
it's,
think
it's a dichotomy, bro.
it's a different. I think too also because like opportunities, right? Like a lot of people, there was the only opportunity out, right? And so like for us, I think we had multiple opportunities, but now they got multiple opportunities. So it doesn't have to be the basketball piece of it, but it also could be like, shoot, we need clinicians too. So let's push them over there. But I think the emotions and the tears is part of the game. You know what I'm saying? Even though some of us are old school in it, you know what I'm saying? But if you passionate about something and you want to, want something bad enough, man, you're gonna experience those emotions, and that's healthy. It's just it gets to the point if it's too consuming, if it start consuming you,
Yes,
and you
yes,
can't make no
yes.
life decisions or move without it, and that's where it gets a little bit out of pocket, and we
I don't
got to
know if
kind
you
of
saw
do something.
the USC quarterback a few weeks ago. They had lost a game.
Yeah,
He was like in the stands with his mom crying. It was a big old thing on social media about him
I
being a
just didn't
big
see that.
old grown man. But like to me, once again, I would rather see a person take whatever they're doing, even beyond sports. You take it that seriously, you will cry about it. I would rather that having to pull you back a little bit versus a person that's just so passive and casual with everything, which is kind of more the masses, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
having to do stuff. I'm just in the
yeah,
band. I'm just
yeah,
doing whatever. Like, hey, man, you actually care about it? Like, I can't
yeah.
relate to that, bro.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. I saw the rhetoric around that, and I was just like, that he's still a child. he's he's a young adult, but he's still like young, man. So I mean, this is what his life has been. So we got to kind of and that's wild to kind of say he's still a child, young adult, but it's think about it, he is. You know what I'm saying? So it's some of the purists, man, the old schools, man. They still kind of stuck. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you got to evolve and grow. If you're not evolving,
But
then obviously gonna be an issue.
where I want to take that is, even though the point of your chapter in the book is about a very serious thing, right? What do you think are the benefits of you having that background in your academics, in your work, in your life, in your family life, even? Like, I attribute so much of what I do now to my sports background and the heart, the will, determination, the old school coaching that we had. Like, that gave me the grit that I have to do these other things that I'm doing. Like that comes from
Yeah.
that. That comes from that
Yeah.
club. You know what I'm saying?
I think really, man, honestly, man, if you can get any child in sports, you should, man, because it teaches so much. Um, Sports is very, very important, I think, in a sense of it don't have to be a I want to get my child to professional, levels. It's just about the aspect of, teamwork, leadership, camaraderie, discipline, sticking through with some things, going through wins and losses, understanding what that looks like and how you navigate through a win, how you navigate through losses. Those things translate in life, right? Because you're going to have time where you want to take some dubs, you can take some L's, how you go through it, you know what I'm saying? And also take some selflessness, right? Like I got to be also in a place to, can't place to hurt the team, right? So, and there's also social dynamics that are helpful in that self-esteem and courage and also just confidence as well. It takes confidence to get out there and play. When I used to coach back in it, like I used to coach a couple years ago when I was in grad school, with 11 and 13-year-olds. And I would have like, different varying levels of, kids that never played and kids that been playing, right? And so I had to really balance that out on how I could teach them and work with them differently. But I had to make sure that I didn't single anybody out, right? And so had to play to their strengths and had to play to what makes it better. But I seen the confidence rise in some of these kids that could barely dribble or tall dribble and move at the same time, to pulling 3-pointers in the middle of a game. you know and I remember this one little kid, man. He was just like, he still was beginning aspects, still learning the game and all the mechanics, and just would try to get a shot up from the free throw line, but couldn't get enough energy on it, right? And next thing I know, man, we probably like mid-season, because one thing what happened was we practice on a smaller court. We'll get to a high school court, the lights get big, the stands get bigger, so the kids will shut down, right? And so you have to really work with them on that balance of maneuvering through that. But man, he came, man, he came so far, man. He couldn't, like, the mechanics was like still basic for him. And by the end of the season, right, he had those mechanics down, man. He pulled up a 3-pointer, man, made that jump. Man, I about lost my mind. It was so fun to see that, you know what I'm saying? But to me, right, when he does that, he goes through a challenge, he learns, he takes a discipline to keep trying it. I'm not the best at it, I'm not the work at it, but I have somebody working with me and pushing me through that. And then obviously this happens as a result of that. So he's going to take that moment with the rest of his life, right?
Yeah, yeah.
From challenges and confidence, self-esteem. Hey, this might be challenging, but I'm going to work through it and I'm going to figure it out. And then I figure it out and move to the next thing. So I think it's very important.
You speak on confidence right quick, right? I remember my own childhood. I was a very, believe it or not, I was a very shy, inward, reserved kid, right?
Same.
But that 80s, 90s era, you were in school, like, you're defined by whatever it is about you. If you're an athlete, you the fly dude with all the Jordans, whatever your thing is, right? You're a cheerleader, whatever.
Right.
The band, all that stuff was major. Whenever I could play basketball and I knew I could play, my confidence in every other part of my life was like, you know what? I'm not the best academically. I'm not the best at a bunch of things. But when it comes to putting that ball in the hole, I know I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like leaning on that, like hanging on that, like no matter what, on that court, in between them lines, you can't tell me nothing.
Yeah. And see, I had to develop that because it was hard for me to kind of engage in that, to kind of, like, it would translate on certain areas, right? Like I play AAU basketball, play rec ball. I'll play a certain way. My dad coached me most of my life, and so I could play a certain way with him because he would allow me to be me. But when I got to like high school, like when I got to middle school and then high school, it was very hard because I was trying to fit into a scheme or a system of coaches that didn't allow me to be me. And that's one of my calling cards, even cross personally, professionally, everything. If you get into a space where you don't allow me to be who I am, I rebel and push back and don't want to be a part of it. And so I would be out here playing pickup games and running through the Y, running through the local neighborhoods, and be me and my homeboys would be hooping, right? And cooking, but it wouldn't translate well into the JV or the varsity level because I had to play a different way, and that stifled me, right? And it was confusing, and that's what made me kind of get upset with basketball, but mostly with the coaches, but kind of around that. And so then it kind of switched to a chip on my shoulder, which talks about that in the chapter, where that chip developed. And then now anybody that doubted me or anybody that came up with me against that, I'm going at your neck. I used to say one time, I was like, I don't care if Michael Jordan walked through this jump. I'm going to go at him as well. I don't care. He is the greatest. That was my mindset. And it just continued. And this beast just kind of formed. And I remember we was at VCU and my homegirl, Dr. Vivid, that got me into psychology. She watched me and my cousin play intramural basketball. And she was like, yo, you are a whole different person playing basketball. I don't even know who you are, but it was a switch. And that didn't come to like more so late adolescence, young adulthood, where it just shifted, but it just kept, the beast became more than his own. I was like, yo, you got to relax, bro. But that's what happened.
Yeah. I want to speak on something real quick before we transition over. Let me do this little graphic right quick. Our generation, speak on the importance of Allen Iverson, AI, the classic cover, slam cover, the importance of that on our culture. Lately, for young women, I've been asking them the impact of Lauryn Hill on them when it comes to their hair, their natural beauty, their attributes, things like that. For us guys, Allen Iverson was definitely a cultural changing person. So talk about that for a bit if you can.
That's my guy, man. That's my guy. If I could turn the camera, I got one picture of Iverson and Kobe, and then I got another one of LeBron over here. But he wasn't 6 foot. He was 5'10". He's 5'10", $150, $160. And to go into professional level and do what he did, he laid the foundation for basketball as a whole. I patterned my whole game after Allen Iverson. I was a big Jordan fan. AI came around. He's from 757 down in VA in Hampton and stuff like that. And that was just felt like a hometown hero to me for VA. And so
let me ask you one question.
What's that?
When the Allen Iverson Jada Kiss Reebok commercial came out, he was dribbling. He did the rap behind the back, on the whole body. Was you trying that?
Yes. Absolutely.
Were you trying to rap?
Yeah. That's a hard move to do. Yes. But I was into and1 and all that stuff.
I know how hard it is to do.
Yeah, I was into and1 and all that type of stuff, man. But AI, man, I really patterned my game after AI and Dwayne Wade. I don't talk about a lot about D-Wade a lot, but they was the two that I patterned my game after. But again, the coaches, right? The coaches didn't like that. The coaches didn't like the flashiness or the things like that. But I think AI's culture, man, and his impact on the game of basketball and what we have now today, it should be studied, right? And the anti-blackness that was around professional sports, and then also as athletes around that time, it's anti-blackness and racism around that now, down to the dress code, the tattoos, the hair, the image, and bringing hip hop to basketball. Now look at it. They don't even. You got the NFL NBA playoff games going on, or regular season games. You got Quavo, Migos playing, all types of different 90s hip hop playing or current. That wasn't happening back then. So you make it so bad,
bro. Look at Colorado football when the year started. They had Lil Wayne walking them out. It's a regular season game, not a bowl game.
I'm saying
Lil Wayne walking out. I'm like,
exactly. You can't deny the impact of hip hop and blackness in these spaces, and you cannot remove or not talk about Allen Iverson when you start talking about the top cultural icons in NBA. I think they did a Mount Rushmore. They had the more like who was the top 5 cultural icons, and left AI off there. Had Steph Curry on there, and I'm like, you could put Steph on there, but how dare you not put Allen Iverson on that level, because he changed the game of basketball. He had everybody wearing sleeves, tattoos. I had the finger jumps, all of that, headbands, cornrows, all of it. He had all of that, bro. So like, but again, anti-blackness. He's a thug. the infamous no practice speech, like, you know what I'm saying, the practice speech, that was because he was dealing with grief and loss, right? And nobody knows about that. Like, he literally lost one of his family members or friends, and he couldn't figure out how to express it, but it came out the way it came out, like most black men, and then he was villainized for that. And so, and even Stephen A has talked about how the way he wrote about him and how it changed the dynamics of stuff like that. So sometimes I get mad with Stephen A because he does some stuff that I don't really agree
Me
with.
too. Me too.
You know what I'm saying?
Me
But
too.
it was like,
We
you
would like
know,
again.
yeah, you know. And so, man, you can't deny AI's, man, impact on the game of basketball, culture, hip hop, the dress code, everything you see in
And
NBA right now is a result of Allen Iverson, man.
I
So
mentioned it because that chapter of the book about basketball in your life, for anybody watching this that didn't play the sport, and they can't resonate with that. Like for those of us that really took it that serious, it's about our lifestyle, bro. Like how we walk, how we talk, how I dress. Every
yeah,
choice in my everyday life was around that ball, about that man.
yeah. Jordans,
For a large part of my
Reeboks.
life. A
I got
large part of my life.
I got Allen. Like, see, like I'm a sneakerhead, so I got J's and everything like that. But I got just as much as Iversons in my closet. I got Jordans, and that was back then too, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's the impact, man. And when we come up, you know, we look up to these people, right? And so I take that same approach with social work, mental health, being a therapist. I like to call myself the Allen Iverson of social work. You feel what I'm saying? Because I'm going to show up with my locks. I'm going to show up in my J's and my sneakers. I'm not going to be dressing up all the time to these events. I'm going to come in. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to show myself. And that's also going to allow for other black professionals and black men to see me in these spaces and say, you know what? I never thought I would see a brother up there speaking the way he do, looking the way he do, talking the
Right.
way he talking.
Yes.
I might want to get into this field. So
Yes.
that's what I take that same approach all into social work.
Back to it's all together, right? It's all together. My breakthroughs with some of my clients was on the basketball court, bro. It wasn't that day how I was in the room doing the little skills and drill worksheets. I take little Bobby and we go to the court together. We do that work. We do that
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I give him that work.
Right.
But now you see me different. I'm not coming there with the little polo shirt and the little slacks and all that. You see me in my hoop gear. We
Yeah.
playing hip hop, driving to the court, driving back,
Yeah.
we playing hip hop music. Like you resonate differently.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
You meet that client where they are at. And a
Yeah.
lot of times I think that that's one of the barriers is that, you know, let's be real. Because a lot of times we think sometimes the therapist, mental health professional be so much like they've made them robots, people robots. And people, you gotta think, man, people are still human. So I try to be as human as possible with everybody I work with or I come in contact with. And I think that's the most appropriate approach to doing this type of work. And that goes for anybody from just, you know, a client who's dealing with depression, anxiety to the client that might be dealing with schizophrenia.
Yeah.
I treat that person as a human being because they are a human
Person.
being at
Person.
the end
Yeah.
of the day.
Person.
You know what I'm saying? And
Person.
so
Yeah.
this approach to how we do stuff and, you know,
And
clinically, and it's rooted in some stuff that's not human.
bro, I've worked at psych wards. I've worked at rehab centers where a person's like doing a 30-day living kind of situation.
Yeah.
I'm the only staff member out there playing ball with them. When they playing ball and they little smoke break time, I'm
Yeah.
out there hooping with them. But
Yeah.
after that,
Same.
the level of rapport I have with them versus the rest of the staff is way different.
It's different. Yeah.
They have a hard time with this certain particular person. Whenever I pull up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the evening, night shift, me and that person rock just fine.
Yeah. I'm
And
saying
they
because
gonna do whatever I say do because we have respect like that. I say, man, look, just do this, just do that, put that up. All right, Sean.
exact. Look, if you can't establish trust, safety, and my three tenets is if you can't establish trust, safety, and rapport, especially with us in the field and clients that, you know, are black that really thrive and that need that trust, safety, rapport before they can, you know, move in that space. But just the blanket for everybody who you work with, then not establishing trust, safety, rapport is going to hurt you in the long run versus whatever intervention you use, whatever policy you use. And so I preach that to students, supervisees, interns, you know, whatever. even seasoned professionals, right, that been in this space. If you can't establish no trust, safety, and rapport, you don't belong. You're not going to connect with that human side of that client, because that client has to know that they can trust you. They have to know that they are safe with you, right? And then that's going to build the rapport so we can do the work that we need to do. But if you can't establish that,
See,
what are you doing?
full circle. Besides basketball, another way I resonate with my clients, I ask them early in the process, "Who's your favorite rapper?" They be like,
Yeah.
"Huh? Who's your favorite rapper?"
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever they tell me who their favorite rappers are, I kind of get a window into the soul of who you're consuming all day, every day.
Yeah.
I
And you can
love
kind of
NBA. I love NBA YoungBoy. I love Keith. I love what. Okay, I see what
now.
you on. I see
Yeah, I
what
know
you
what
on.
time it's
Okay,
time.
I know
Yeah.
what time it is. You know what I mean?
I
But,
I used to do a jump too outside the basketball. When I was working in psych inpatient, I've used it in my therapy practices. I did a car group with like the men, because I was working with the men a lot, and we did a car group about our favorite cars, right? And that would allow for us to do some mindfulness, you know what I'm saying, and kind of learn more about each other. And then I talked about whatever emotions or feelings that they didn't have in the space, you know what I'm saying, how can we get it back, right? And then we kind of can pinpoint where we need to walk that too, you know what I'm saying? And so, different elements, right? That's not an evidence-based intervention, but it's one way to connect with that person to show that I'm human. These credentials or whatever this badge don't mean nothing. I'm here to help you, right? And so a lot of times people get behind these credentials and think that the credentials is everything they need to have. No, if you can't connect with that human being on that person, then it don't matter. So why are you in this space? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe that,
I
man. You
love
can
you
use
said that.
different interventions, man, because and
Yes, sir.
basketball is one of those tools. You know.
Right. And back to being some of the only guys on the staff. None of my female co-workers, not saying that females don't ball, obviously, but percentage wise, all my female counterparts not going to play basketball with Lil Bobby.
Yeah.
Most of my
Yeah.
female counterparts not discussing the latest hip hop with Lil Bobby,
Yeah.
and then wonder why they don't resonate with him.
Yeah. 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 Unless you got a sister that probably know, but she
I
can
mean,
probably pull out some other tools to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah,
I do know some dope like black women clinicians
yeah,
that do
sure,
some creative
sure,
stuff
yeah,
that will
yeah,
that
yes,
up there, like they get things done. Especially like my homegirl,
sure.
Dr. Vivid, like I said, Dr. Ellie, she does some amazing stuff that she can resonate, connect with people, man, so easily. So it's out there, but sometimes like for our white counterparts, they might not, because they might not resonate there. But that's an opportunity to grow and
It
to
is.
learn. That goes beyond cultural competence. We're talking about cultural humility, meaning that I don't know everything about what you bring to the table, but you're the expert of your life. Let me immerse myself in that so I can learn better how to connect with you. That's cultural humility, the practice of cultural competence.
Before we transition, there's a question from the comments section. My man Ladarius, my brother, my young boy, he said, "Does the type of call play a role in their psychology?" Was his question.
The car is more so just kind of just the talking point, right? The reality of the point of where we're going with that project. I mean, that mindfulness activity is, I want them to visualize something that makes them happy, right? Whether they had the car or not. And then I want to help them pinpoint where that tapered off. So the car is mostly just a symbol and a kind of a vehicle, in a sense, figuratively, to get them to the place of understanding where they may have fell off or lost their sense of self, emotions, feelings, self-worth, or their actual understanding of themselves. So it's more of a symbolism piece than anything else. I do it. I flip it to also now where I do like a favorite vacation spot or a favorite place to go. That's kind of like the place, the safe space, and then we walk them back down. Yep.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I love it. Thanks for the question in the comments. Keep the questions coming. I love that. Let's transition to the chapter on divorce, right? So you were a young man when your parents divorced, right? I was a child, like 2 years old. So like most things in life, if a child get their ears pierced when they're a baby, or
Yeah.
get circumcised for the young men, other things happen in cultures, people get scarification, whatever. As a
Yeah.
kid, it's a lot easier than being a grown up going through those things, obviously, right? So talk about being a young man going through. You love both of your parents, you respect and honor both of your parents. That's a very tough place to be in, And I don't think we talk about enough whenever you're the child of the divorce, right? So speak
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if they have done that when I was a child, then or in my teenage years, I don't know how that would have affected me. Um, I think it would have done a little bit more damage than even young adulthood. But that's trying time for me, man. That was freshman year, sophomore year, junior year of of undergraduate. So first gen college student going to class, going to school, going away from school, and then knowing that your parents are, separating or on the verge of, splitting. And luckily, when I came back home to VCU, when I went to transferred back from Fayetteville State to VCU, then that started to become a little bit more reality, probably around like my junior year, going to my senior year. And it was tough, man. That space and that situation affected me dearly for my relationships, and then also in my marriage. And it still affects me to this day, right? Because I still gotta I gotta go to this household, I gotta go to this household, dealing with both of them, as the grandparents. And I got two kids now, and it's tough, man. And make it so bad, it didn't just affect me, it affected my partners too, my homeboys, because a lot of folks see my mom and dad as second mom and a second father. And so, like, my homeboys didn't say it initially, but then like they come back afterwards and they be like, man, I feel everything you're going through. I support, if you need anything, let me know. But man, that joint hurt me too. I was like, dang, like it was a community that it hurt, and so I'm in a better space with it now. Of course, through therapy and
Yes, sir.
lots of back and forth from my parents about it.
Yeah, yeah.
But that definitely I
I
probably should have been in therapy back then in undergraduate, realistically.
good point.
I waited a
Good
little bit too late to kind of get things rolling
point.
for real, for real.
Because,
Yeah.
like you're saying, for some of these people in the community, first of all, percentage wise, not many people have seen two successful like people be a marriage.
Right.
Haven't even witnessed it.
Hmm.
So in
Hmm.
our relationship, we're just guessing. We're just trying. We've never seen it happen. We're just
Yeah,
guessing
yeah,
what
yeah.
to do. But if
Yeah.
you are blessed to be a person that have seen successful long term relationships, and then that thing falls apart, it's like taking the rug from under you. Like your whole,
Yeah.
it's like Santa Claus not real. Like that kind of a like. Wait a minute, this is
Yeah.
a lot. It's a
They
process, bro.
they was like 20, almost close to 20 years in, because I was like in my 20s. Yeah, 25-ish. Yeah. So close to 20 years in. So for you to see that as like, I talk about in my book, man, that was probably the hardest. That chapter and the grief chapters were probably the toughest pieces to work through in that book, even in therapy, and also thinking that I have worked through that stuff. As I'm talking about it, it just came back full force. But I also credit Saint on his questioning and how he pulled that stuff out of me, because one of the things he asked me about the divorce piece, and it's in the chapter where I was talking about it, and I said, I think about the kitchen, standing in the kitchen, but everything is in like a really 70s opaque view, and it's just cold. There's nothing there no more. And I said, that was the vision for me at that point. I was like, oh snap, where did that come from? Right? You know what I'm saying? And
That's
so,
good. That's good.
and just kind
And
of,
when you
processing
said
with
that,
it.
I resonated with that. When you said that about the transition and the change, is the real back to lyrics. The house is not a home. Like the house is just a house. Like
A house is not a home
the house is not
anymore.
a home. Yeah. Like
Coming home, seeing pops there, or he in the basement, or he in the garage, and that changes. And now you flip to being a man and doing the stuff that he was doing, even though I was doing it, but now I was doing it by myself and trying to figure that out. I had my uncles. My uncles was around too, so they was like, help and support, whatever. And my uncles was like my big brothers. Uncle G, and I saw it's an other uncle I don't mention in the book, but he's still alive. He's kicking. That's my guy. But they like my big brothers. You know what I'm saying? So they would help transition, and they don't play about me at all. So like whatever I need, they on go mode. But just And then navigate, and then my homeboys, like, they was really supportive as well. But there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of pain and grief and loss, but grieving the loss of a really fully fledged living relationship that is now gone. You know what I'm saying? It's not grief and loss from somebody that passed away. You can put 1+1 = 2. That person passed away, is gone, going to heaven. Bless the Lord. Lord, help me with that. We can pray on that. This living situation that was once here last year or in the holiday season or years ago is now not existent anymore. You know, and that's and nobody
know,
taught me how to process or manage that.
because once
So I'm doing
again,
that in real time.
yes, once again, the importance of this conversation and the things that's not talked about at our ages now. Most of our friends are married people. Most of our friends probably have gone through divorces or they're getting divorced, and like all these things. That's why I say it's important to highlight whenever you're the child of that.
Yeah.
It's not talked about enough among our peer base. Like, man, you know what? Me and so not getting along. We're getting divorced. Like,
Yeah.
what about the kids?
Yeah.
What about the impact of the kids, the community? There's so many things that reverberate beyond both of y'all, whatever y'all going through. You know?
Yeah. But even I speak to that in a little bit in the book too, because then also if these people are not happy, then what type of home are we creating? You know what I'm saying? So it might be best to go ahead and separate, even though it sucks for the children. And so, but even in that, there's a place of responsibility and accountability where, you know, because that's why I used to get caught in the middle between me and my mom and my dad, and about like stuff that they was not dealing with, taking accountability on. That was their issue, but now it's my issue. So now I'm pissed because I got my old stuff going on. I'm already dealing with this, but now I'm in the middle. You feel what I'm saying? Like, and so I think, again, nobody wants to see that happen. But again, if these people are not happy, we can't force them to be happy for the sake of the kids, because then it's going to be a miserable experience for everybody. Unless we can be grown adults
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
And a lot of times we can't,
yeah.
you know,
Let
because
me
it's
ask you
too
a
hard.
question about your own stance in the current marriage right now, right? Like, does the impact of that in your current marriage, like as far as whenever times get hard, times get difficult, you wrote about it in the book, some difficult times you had, like, is it like hell no, like nah, we ain't doing that. We ain't throwing no flags and we ain't throwing no towels in, like nah.
Yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
you know, how do you process that? Like you've been through that as far as being the recipient of that, like nah, we ain't doing that. They ain't
Yeah,
going
yeah,
down.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Me and my wife, you know, she's had her own experience with her parents. They're still together and stuff like that. And so I leaned on them a lot too. Um, but you know, me and my wife are on the same page. You know what I'm saying? This is our first and last marriage. Like, if it don't work, it don't work. But we're gonna do our best to fight for each other. And then understanding that, you know, our own personal stuff comes into play into our marriage. And so this is one of the things I tell guys all the time, because a lot of times I used to get a lot of guys coming into therapy that had, you know, problems with their spouse or a loved one, a girlfriend, things like that. And, you know, they're coming in there and I'm like, well, or I get a lot of requests for, I'm sorry, couples counseling. And I'm like, have y'all done individual counseling first? Because we bring a lot of baggage and our own experience into our relationships. Right. And so I tell people all the time, like, you got the spouse, the marriage, right? So whatever you got going on, or lack thereof, or it's in a good space, gets poured into the marriage. The marriage is an entity too. So you have to be able to making sure that you are on your P's and Q's individually, because if you're not, it spills off into the marriage. And I know it is a fact because I see it happening, but I also personally experienced it with my parents, but then also with myself as well, which is one of the reasons why I pushed myself into therapy, because the stuff that I wasn't dealing with, whether it be past traumas or, you know, dealing with the divorce, the grief and loss, whatever going on, now that's spilling over into my husbandry, my marriage, and my fatherhood, right? And so I have to do the work to kind of work on myself so I can be a better father and a husband, right? Because again, individual, the spouse, and the entity of marriage. You pour into that. right? And then it's not up to your spouse to fulfill all. It's not up to your spouse to make you whole. You got to make yourself whole. You feel what I'm saying? And so if you're not working to make yourself whole, right, then
Yeah.
it's not fair to the other spouse to try to figure out what's going on or try to put the puzzle piece back in there that they don't know enough what's going on. They don't know where it's coming from, where it's about. You might be sharing bits and pieces, or you haven't shared it at all, but they're not mind readers, right? And
No,
so
no.
that is where, and so I had again learning that in real time, still
Mhm.
grieving the
Yeah.
loss of this relationship with my parents, while now entering into a new relationship and marriage with my wife and saying, okay, what we don't want to be and want to do, and how are we going to go about doing this so we can last forever, right? For our kids and stuff like that. And so it's a learning curve. It takes a lot of internal work. It
Yes,
takes a
it
lot
does.
of
Yes, it
accountability
does. Yes, it does.
and a lot of, internal work to get through your stuff.
It
Because you
does.
got stuff. We all
We
got
all do.
stuff.
We all got stuff. Yeah. And you know what?
We all
Whenever
got
they say
stuff, man.
when you get married, they say the two become the one, right? But like along
Yeah.
with that mathematical equation, it's like what else come along with that? Whenever the
Oh
two become
yeah.
the one, like you bring a lot coming with that on both
two
sides.
becomes two becomes one, but then you got the two that has a two and an extra 10 on the other side.
Hey,
They
hey,
be
you got to carry the one, you got to carry it.
carrying the one, carrying the two, man. So, man, and
Yeah,
so
all of
I,
that.
when people
All of that.
talk about marriage, man, and stuff like that, man, I try to, give them out the best advice I can, but I ultimately tell them, like, what I'm saying, hey, if you're going to looking for couples counseling, let's start individual first, then come together and do couples, because you'll
Yeah,
probably find out that some stuff that you ain't dealt with individually is
yeah,
coming out in
yeah.
the marriage, and then that's where it's happening now.
And once again, I want to say this too. We said it off the mic, but I'm gonna say it right now. Like a lot of times in our guy circles, whenever you at the court hoop and y'all finish playing, y'all just chilling talking before y'all leave, or you in the barber shop or at work, and the watering hole, as they say. Like not many guys talking about what they're going through at the house. You know, it's private. It might be embarrassing to you somewhat. You don't want to talk about that. You want to paint the wrong picture, so you're not really talking about these things to get it worked out, to get it
Yeah,
fixed out, get it. You're not even talking through it. You know, to
yeah,
even get different perspective for somebody else. You know.
yeah. You not, and we just hold it in. You know what I'm saying? So we just deal with it, and so a lot of time I think that it's just about just having your accountability partners, but your folks that you can lean on and talk through with stuff. But then if it's too much, or if it's too, you don't want to get into all of it, then you need to go talk to somebody that's a non-biased approach or opinion about it. You know what I'm saying? And
That's
I
right.
just if you're not processing or talking about it or letting it go, then it's going to just fester and it's going to explode at some point.
Right. Now, another comment, question from the comment section. I'm not a marriage psychologist. I ain't go to school for that. It's not my field. I don't
Me
know about my
either.
man Trey, right?
Me
My
either.
man said, what are the perils of looking at marriage as a business in the context of divorce? What are the perils of looking at marriage as a business in the context of divorce?
The
Question.
perils of looking at marriage as a business in the
In the
context
context.
of, hmm. Um, I'm not sure about that one. Um, because I would say if it's as a business in the context of divorce, then I would say that maybe somebody has a lot of businesses or acumen or a lot of different entrepreneur situations that they're trying to protect or they're trying to enhance on, as far as maybe taxes and maybe other things like that. But I can't really speak to that in the sense of um much, because I
Yeah.
don't, I got student loan
Yeah.
debt.
I really
I
try to
got
pride
one business.
myself on I try to pride myself on speaking about what I really know about, what I deal with, and that's not necessarily my ballpark. So I don't want to
Yeah,
say anything that sound fly on the youth. Like I ain't doing that. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
good question.
That's
Keep
that.
the questions coming. I appreciate the question.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Um,
Um, I want to go into your chapter on grief. You said it was your second hardest chapter to write. Those two chapters definitely hit me a lot when it comes to the divorce chapter and the grief
hmm
chapter.
hmm
Let's talk about digesting grief, processing grief, and then like actually trying to work your life through it. Like we still gotta live life. The bills don't stop because something going on. Work don't stop. The obligations don't stop, man. So let's speak about that for a minute. We don't talk about that enough. The grief process.
Yeah. What's crazy about grief is that was one of the probably the areas when I first came out of grad school that was really a tough space for me. So I was, I really didn't know how to deal with it and work with it. Right. And I've had grief and loss for quite some time. Like I lost my grandfather early when I was like maybe like 9, 10, 11. So I talk about that. And so that was different, right? Grief at that point as a child versus grief as an adult. And so, probably one of the hardest years of my life is 2018 when I lost both my grandparents, my grandmothers in the same year, 6 months apart, 5 months apart, and navigating that, right? Fresh off of, starting my own family, getting married. Daughter is about 2 years old, still fresh in the career, trying to figure out what I want to do going forward. And working those same hospital ERs and rooms that my grandmother passed away in. And so those were trying and tough times. And then looking at the whole 5-year span of losing loved ones, you know, from 15, my uncle passed. Soon as I graduate, 3 months in, he passed. And one of the fastest things I've seen in my life. You know what I'm saying? He just went down. Next thing, it was gone. I was like, oh, what happened? And then the birth of my daughter, and then my wife's grandfather passes the week after. So I'm in the parking garage with a fresh newborn, and already had stressed out about trying to take care of a newborn, and then her grandfather passed. And just from 2015 to 2020, and losing loved ones, and with the hardest year being 2018 of losing two, but I don't know, by the grace of God, that I'm still here in my right mind, thriving and doing stuff, because I had no idea how to navigate through that. I had no idea. Like, I remember countless times talking to my pastor and just working through that stuff, and he praying for me, and just leaning on my friends and family to work through that. So now you talk about the divorce, but now you talk about the grief and loss of your parents, and having to be there for them when technically you married, right? If you married, the spouse going to support one another, or because they've been married for so long, you know what I'm saying? They grieve differently through the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, things like that. But now it switches because I'm the only child. So I'm trying to support, while I'm going through my grieving process, I'm trying to also support my dad and my mom in separate houses whilst there's still beef. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so
You
by
trying
the
to you
grace
trying
of
to
God,
hold up. You trying to hold up a lot. You trying to show the
yeah.
so many things, man.
I
So many
like
things.
when my grandma, my dad's mom passed, and then his brother passed like the year after. That was when I said I went to go to therapy. My dad wanted me to come up to the house, my grandmother's house. I still haven't been to my grandmother's house since she passed, actually. My other grandma, my mom's mom, I've been there because my uncle still stays there. So I rock in there every once in a while, but it's still kind of, eerie. But my dad wanted me to come up to the house. I said, bro, I can't do it. And that was my boundary I had to set with myself. He was like, man, I understand, and I wanted to be there for him. But he had family members and stuff like that up there, my cousin and stuff like that. But I just couldn't, man. I was like, because it was 2019, it was like the last one. I was like, there's no way. And I think the next week I looked for my therapist, and I said, because there's no way I can make it. So the grace of God and therapy was allowing me to get through probably one of the toughest stretches of my life. Because my wife, she lost another grandfather too. So she lost two grandfathers in that time frame. I lost two uncles, a cousin, two grandmas at the same time. I'm like, nobody's talking about how you get through grief and loss of your older family members. We just say, oh, well, just pray about it, keep moving. That's just the cycle of life. Okay, but how do you get through and process that? You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
How do you process
yeah.
that with your
No,
parents who are divorced?
I
They
only,
don't have each other no more, and it's just you.
I
You
only,
know.
I only had the experience of one like tremendous loss 5 years ago. My grandmother, right? I can't
Mhm.
even imagine just thinking about it. The multiple, I can't imagine what that's
Yeah.
like. I just can't. That's a lot for
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
and it I learned about grief and loss real real easy. And so I could talk about it now, man. But it's still tough. I mean, it still gets emotional when I talk about it now, but it's less emotional than what it was. But that shaped me, man. That and it also, I'm gonna tell you what it did too. It changed a lot of my relationships. It made me a lot more less I would say hesitant, less I would say a little bit more rigid, but open, but like rigid in the sense of like we not gonna take but so much. Like some things I'll take more, have a little bit more, leniency. It cut there. I lost a lot of relationships after that. I started reevaluating relationships, reevaluating relationships, reevaluating friendships, reevaluate professional career stuff because nothing mattered at that point. I dropped my first book and I didn't care about the book. My grandmother was passed. You know what I'm saying? So
hmm
it changed a lot for me. And it kind of changed my demeanor in a sense, but it was for the better, I think, because I think there's some places, people, places and things that were um I was allowing to use me, but not pour into me.
that's around
And
whenever I
so
met you right here. You good, fam? That's around whenever you and I first connected a while back, and
yeah.
go out there, get the book. This is an amazing book once again by the same brother. And yeah, so that's around that time frame right here. You know.
Yeah, 2017, 2018. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that was around the time, like the summertime or something like that, man. But then, like right after that, that's when everything dropped. So it's wild to think about how things process in that time. But
It's funny in hindsight. Now I do remember like why I didn't see you for a while. Now it makes sense why I didn't see you for a while. I
yeah,
remember this and everything behind that. It was like, wait a minute, what the homeboy with? But now it makes sense all that was going on there between us.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I dipped off for a minute.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because by the time I dipped
Understandably.
off those couple months, that's when in the December of that 2018 is when my other grandma passed. And so I had just kind of got out of the grief and loss funk and went into that. And then when she went, I didn't probably come back into the space of it probably to like May ish. Just I'm talking about myself, being
Hmm?
myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Now the crazy thing about it was in 2020 when I lost my uncle in 2020, um, I was able to process that and deal with that easier. But that was still tough. And I was like, man, that's my dog. That's Uncle G. And but I had went through so much loss. I had prepared myself prior to when he passed, knowing that, something he probably wasn't gonna be here too much longer. Kind of
let me
sad to say it, but
let me
mm,
let me ask you that an example of like kind of like the exposure over time. And once again, in psychology, exposing somebody to something over time to where it becomes less and less of a trigger or a thing.
I think so in a sense. Like, I wouldn't say I was numb. Because there were instances where I probably was numb at some points throughout that time period, but not for him. It's just like because I had went through so much with him too. Like he had been in the penitentiary for like 14, 15 years. And then he got out and then he was still trying to get a kidney. And then he went through a situation the year prior to that when I was working at one of the hospitals where he had to get his leg amputated. I was there with him with that, point of contact with him, kind of just, making sure he was good when he was there in the hospital. And but just like I could see him, kind of just I was like, man, I don't know how much longer we got with him, you know what I'm saying? And that situation when it happened, like I was like, it was right before Thanksgiving. I was like, dang, like, oh snap. And he just never woke up, you know what I'm saying, from the coma. And I was like, dang, like I am upset. And I was like, dang, did you know? You know what I'm saying? Like this was going to happen. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I guess after all that, after those 5 years, bro, like you know what I'm saying? It's just if you haven't figured out how to deal with it at this point, and you haven't figured out how to work through it, then
Yeah.
you don't know. You know,
You
it's just
mentioned
hard.
something I want to hit on real quick. Like for most of us, it kind of an unhealthy manner. You kind of like keep on working. Like whenever I experience certain things, like the next day or the next week, I'm going back to work. Like I'm like whether than me being in my room in my house, just soaking and getting more
Yeah.
in my own head. For me, I'm better off like actually trying to like live to work my way through it versus just staying in there. You know what I'm saying? And we,
Yeah.
we all process different, obviously.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I think when my grandma was passed though, I mean, it was one of those things where I couldn't stay in the house too much, man, because all I would think about is them. You
That's what
know,
I'm
so I
saying.
did work. And I do have a bad habit of working through my stuff. Like I just work, I overwork
So do I.
and
Yeah.
not
So do
deal
I.
with the things that I need to deal with. I think
Yeah.
that developed after the divorce and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because I just put myself in, I was like to not deal with it. I'm gonna just go ahead and just put myself into my academics, put myself into working and figure it out. Because my grad school time, that was nuts. I shouldn't probably have done what I did in grad school in
Yeah.
my senior
Your
year
schedule. You
undergrad.
described the book. Your schedule was. I mean, I think about it again. That's for a lot of us. Like in my master program, I had two full time jobs, not one. Two full time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Master program. I was writing my first book. I had a lot going on at that point in
Yeah,
my life as well. Man, it was just
it's too much, right? But it's like you got to
somehow
get it
we
done.
fall into. Yeah, I was gonna
You
say
got
that.
to get it
Somehow we
done.
fall into that. It's the weirdest thing how you wake up and it just happens. You don't plan for it to happen that way. It's just what life becomes. Like, okay, I
And
gotta
and,
pay
and thing of
bills. I gotta get money. But I'm going to
right,
school. I can't just be a student. I'm a grown man with a family. Gotta go to
right.
work. You know what I'm saying?
But see, I think that's the piece about it. That's why I say for us as black men though, because and that's why I wanted to write the book is because in order to survive, we mask, compartmentalize in a sense, an ability to cope, right? And so as I went through therapy and kind of process all that, and not this epiphany as I was writing this book, but then also going through therapy, I was like, dang, like maybe I probably was suffering with depression throughout that time, from undergraduate all the way through grad school. And because I could remember certain points of moments where I would just lay in bed and just stare at the ceiling and try to figure out what's going on happening. I had my sad and down moments, but I would just pull myself up, figure it out, get back to work. You know what I'm
Get
saying? I
dressed.
can remember
Yeah.
going, yeah, going through
Get
grad
dressed.
school, man, and like working so hard through grad school and then like I'll get so tired where my body would just shut down. I'll be asleep for 12 to 15 hours. You know what I'm saying? And so as I reflected back, I was like, yo, you was, overworking, but you in
Pushing it.
overworking is
Pushing it.
pushing,
Red line. Pushing it.
yeah,
Red line.
red line. And you overworking, and that's a symptom
Yeah.
of depression,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so
Yeah. Facts.
when I dealing with like my grief and loss of my grandparents, I was like, I got to go back to work, but I never, I know I changed as a person as a result of that
Yeah.
because I got a lot more sensitive, a lot more aware of stuff, and then I
Mm-hmm.
also just was working with older adults. I couldn't do it no more. Um, and so, and then that was the last year I worked in crisis. My job that I post grad job for 3.5 years. That following year came up, and I was like, I'm looking for another job. I'm sick of it. I can't do it no more. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of non-negotiables, even though I was working through that stuff, but I didn't know what else to do because I got a family, like you said, I got to
Yeah.
provide,
Yeah.
and I got a career,
Yeah.
and I couldn't sit in the house because I was ruminating too much, and
I,
so
I
I had to.
mentioned earlier. I mentioned earlier about us guys sometimes lacking that space to talk about our relationships, talk about our house stuff, whatever it might be, right? But we normalize what we're talking about right now. We normalize it so much to where you feel almost crazy bringing it up because that's most of our existence.
Yeah,
Most of us got multiple jobs. Most of us got our relationship stuff going on. Most of us got our household stuff going on. That's the norm. So
Yeah,
you sound like you whining or complaining about it. Like this, all of us. You're
exactly.
not special, and so
And
you
that's what
don't get help because it becomes so normal.
and that's what guys I've heard guys say when they come into the therapy space. It feels like I'm complaining or whining about stuff that's just everyday life. But my thing of it is, and that's why I wrote the book, was like, these are everyday life things that we don't talk about enough that we need to talk about because that's the everyday stressors that
And
affect the mental and physical space.
let's highlight it's abnormal. What we talking about?
Yeah,
We've normalized it. This is
we've normalized.
abnormal
Yes.
behavior.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Abnormal. We've made it normal. It's abnormal. I want to stress
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Not
Absolutely. The
glorifying it.
overworking,
Oh,
the you know, even if we're using like we're drinking or smoking or whatever to cope, right? That's a coping mechanism, but at the same time, it's abnormal in a sense because it's you're replacing your body's ability to deal with stress because you're not processing it. So now every time that you have a stressful moment, you go to that, right? And then that comes an addiction, and then that develops into different things. And that could be anything, whether it's like I'm angry, right, where I haul off and throw stuff, or I fight, or I get pent up emotion and just hit stuff. It doesn't just have to be
yeah.
alcohol or weed or whatever, or drugs. It could be anything, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the place where we have normalized these behaviors to cope and to survive, right? But these things affect us, man, and they make us who we are, and they also can have lasting effects on the people
Yes.
around us, but
Yes.
not just us, but the people around us and who we love and care about.
And
And
I
it's
want to, I
just
want to,
unfortunate.
I want to combine that with the next topic right here. Let's talk about this. And not saying that any gender has it harder or worse. We're not doing the gender thing. I don't do that. But let's
Right.
talk about guys in particular. The pressures that a lot of us face society because
Yeah.
you're trying to be the man to hold up the house
Yeah.
in the relationship, and you're trying to be a good father, not just be a dad, but a good father,
Right.
active, in there. And so do these crazy job environments, or these job environments.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to hold up once again all of these things and not whine and complain about it, right?
Yeah.
Pull your bootstraps up, tie it up. You know what I mean? Be a man or whatever. Like the pressure, the
Hmm.
flat out pressure of the day to day of that, man. Like we gotta talk about
Yeah.
that, man.
Because
We gotta talk about that. If the
everybody's
light
just
go
like,
off, it's my fault. All right? The light go
yeah,
off is my fault.
yeah.
If it's
Whatever
cold
I do is
outside
my fault.
and the heat is not working, man, that's my fault. Like it
Hmm.
all comes back on you said you're a coach, right? Being sports. If the team messing up, you're a reflection of the coach. It's your fault.
Yeah.
He missed the shot, but that's your fault, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So to be a father in a lot of households, you're like the head coach or whatever, right? Traditionally. So when things don't happen right, like we're thinking about that. We're waking up to that. Like, man, I got to take care of this, got to take care of that. It's the ongoing dialogue. It's
Yeah.
not healthy at all.
It's because again, when we express it, we're met with, oh, well, that's just life, boy. You got to just, figure it out. And I'm just like, but that's not enough for a lot of guys. And it's definitely not enough for a lot of guys now because so many black men are committing suicide. And due to the pressures of life and, community and whatever we got going on. And I just really felt that, if we don't air these conversations out or have these topics around it, then we're going to continue to suffer as a community around it
Yes.
because these are realistic pressures, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I've been on a crusade of kind of working with and talking about the stuff that black men deal with because nobody else is talking about it. You know what I'm saying? And we just kind of expect, even when you expect like black men to say, well, you should go to therapy. Well, we just talked about it earlier. There are a lot of black male professionals to talk to. And so that deters, right? Or guys feel like they're complaining. Guys feel like they're whining. Guys feel like, who cares about what I'm going through? It's just life, right? And it's like, but
You know
those
what's
things are affecting you,
you know
you
what's
know?
tricky because we're in the counseling space and we're in the writing space. So people come to us for advice, right?
Right.
You're in the middle of your hurricane and all these phone calls and inboxes and emails come with their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you on the phone the whole time, like trying to hold space for somebody. Like, man, I'm hearing you, but in your mind, it's like, bro,
I got it too. I got it too. Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
how to say it.
I got it
Yeah,
too. You know, I got it too.
you're speaking for like, bro, you say to yourself like, bro,
Yeah. And I think that's where,
that's
you know,
the cycle
the
of
cycle,
why
but other
of why I don't call somebody. Because like
Mhm.
if I call Trey, I know Trey got stuff.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Like, I
But
ain't
then
want to bother you, bro. You got
you
your
said,
own stuff.
"Bro, you could have just told me that." I'm like, in my subconscious, like how?
I didn't want to be a burden. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
it's just the fact that I think we're doing a better job. I will say we're
yeah,
doing a
we
better
are.
job at it.
Yeah, we getting better. We getting better.
Yeah, we're getting better.
We getting
But
better.
I think that that burden, man, to just be that provider, that protector, and what we saw growing up with our patriarchs and our guys, you know,
Yeah,
because one of the things I
yeah.
talking to my pops, like, you know, like my pops only showed me how to be a man, but like he only showed me the emotions of happiness and anger. So I didn't know the different emotions and feelings or whatever else was going on. He didn't get that from his dad. You know what I'm saying?
Bro,
And so it's
bro,
like, how do you break that cycle, right? Deal with things. And so I'm dealing with this stuff in real time. You know what I'm saying? And
you just said a mouthful, bro. You just
mhm,
said a mouth. Because a lot of our current day writers talking about their relations to their dad. And maybe they wasn't hugged enough. Maybe they wasn't supported
yeah,
enough or embraced enough. And that old school generation of dads feeling like, man, you had a roof, you had fresh
yep,
clothes, you had
yep,
food every night.
yep,
Like I did my fatherly duty. Like, the old Tyrese, what more do you want from me, right?
yeah.
Because they
But
really
it
gave all they had. That's all they had was that.
that's all
All
they
they had.
had. And
All
that and
they tapped out.
yeah, and that's all they could provide. And you think about like the generation on that, and it's just like, okay, they was dealing with this. All right, so this is what they learned. This is what they had to deal with. And I think that's because when I had those conversations about, you know, generations, you know, around why they did what they did, they talk about like that's all we knew, and that's what we had to do. You know what I'm saying, to survive and make it, and it makes sense generation to generation. Um, but I just was, you know, and my dad was very supportive of everything I done,
Yeah.
and he was loving and things like that. But he was, you know, one more of the traditional old school black men. You know what I'm saying? And so navigating that and understanding that, and my, you know, most of the men in my life are like that, traditional
Yeah.
old school black men. And
Yeah.
so for me to kind of navigate that and understand how to, you know, go beyond that, it took some time. But again, it also it felt like I didn't have enough tools. So I had to go
Cool.
find those tools. And then I'm taking those tools and helping, you know, with my guys, you know, to help them learn through the stuff because they've been to the same stuff. And then working through
Yeah.
that. And we have a situation. I'll tell you one thing with that is I had put so much about mental health into my friend group around that time that by the time when I went through my grief and loss stuff, I didn't have to coach none of them. They was like, yo, whatever you need, we here. You want to get out, you want to go somewhere, you want to do this, let's do it. Or you want to stay and we'll support that too. They had surrounded me to help, you know, get me through that grief and loss period in a way that was
That's nice.
healthy because
That's
we
nice.
talked about mental health so much,
So much, right?
you
And
know.
I want to say this too. You mentioned being one of the first generation in your family when it comes to college and everything, right? A lot of us are some of the first generation. And back to our fathers and our elders, given what they had, they didn't go to school. They didn't have these classes that we've been privileged to have, these courses and classes about a lot of things about emotions and all kind of
Yeah.
things like that. So I mean,
Access.
it's unfair to even ask of them something that they
Right.
never had. So as far as forgiving them or as far as our relation to them, once I realized that, my own father and father son dynamic changed because like, you know what? He didn't have none of this. He was just guessing.
Exactly. Exactly.
He's a good man, not a bad man at all. He was
Right.
just guessing.
He had access. He had
Yeah.
access. We had
He was-
access. And it's wild because as I gotten older and I've, you know, gotten my own training around it, you know, and
yeah.
I can, my dad has grown in that space, but he's still him, right? He ain't gonna
Of
change for
course.
nobody.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I can tell when he needs to process because he repeats himself a lot. And I might not have it in me, but when I hear it and catch it, I'm like, all right, let me go ahead and put this to the side. Let me sit down. What's going on? You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation about it and be there for him during that piece. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how he's learned at this point. You feel what I'm saying? He's read the books. He's read my book. He's read this current one. We've had our tit for tat back and forth stuff. So he's aware, but there's still limitations, but this is what he can do and provide. You know what I'm saying? So I try to, knowing that older generation didn't have the access to resources. Once you figure that out, you have no choice but to forgive and lend that extra hand. It's like, what can you do?
I'm 42, right? I'm 42. Mm-hmm. Look at the words that we didn't have in a short period of time in my life.
Right.
There was no toxic masculinity conversations. Toxic masculinity, and he's a narcissist, and this person is this, and that person is that. Those labels and language wasn't even around a few years ago.
Yeah. So some of it is
older men in our life that was totally off their radar. Yeah. And you look back on today's lens, like, oh, that person was this. That's not fair to them.
Right. To them. And again, Black mental health is still fresh and new, right? It's still a new field. We're learning more stuff about every day. But then also you got to think about from the Black population perspective how racial trauma has affected us, going forward. And that's still being studied. So, some of this stuff is like it's still new and fresh. You know what I'm saying? Even the concept of therapy is still new, fresh. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things, man, where you just kind of have to, it sucks, but sometimes you have to really, give yourself that opportunity and space to say, you know what? I can't fault you for what you didn't know or what you didn't have access to.
No.
But that don't mean we continue. we can acknowledge, take some accountability, and move forward.
With your dad, I bet you it makes him a better granddad. I'm sure it makes him a better grandfather. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He's a different grandfather than he was as a father. Yeah. Still some elements. Yeah. But he's different around that. Yeah.
I want to round out with this at the end of the conversation, man, about your personal health, because there's a lot of Black men. They're not getting the annual checkups. You're not going to get checked out. You wait until the last minute to go and take something that could have been avoided a while ago. You wait till the last minute to get it addressed. I work in the hospital right now. You was in the hospital. We see all of these crazy cases every night, man. Night for night, 50, 60 hours a week. We seeing all of these cases, man. Like, let's address our health and things like that. Back to us shouldering a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure. Wonder why these Black guys dying at early ages.
Yeah, dying scary.
Early, dying young. Man, once again, my classmates, I know so many guys that had heart attacks and strokes and this and that. Like, man, I still feel 25 on the inside. Yeah. Ask me, but a lot of my classmates dying left and right. But you're taking so many things on, and we underestimate the impact of stress. Stress really kills for real, man. Stress kills. It's not a cliche. It's not a phrase. It's a real thing. Nah. Scientific. You know what I mean? So going to that.
That's one of the first things when I started this journey to kind of mental health advocacy, was talking about stress and the compound effect it has on us as Black people, especially Black men. Because I'm a firm believer that stress is one of the culprits of our physical illnesses and medical conditions, right? And not the ability to process our emotions, feelings, and things like that. And so we have to find places to work through that. And one of the things is interesting, right? Because I've talked about in the physical side of it. When I talk to guys, man, I don't just do therapy. We talk about the physical components and all that too. And I'm making sure that they're going to the annual checkups, and I'll be on their heads about it. They know, like, yo, you go check that. Sometimes the medical conditions can actually exacerbate the mental health conditions for us, and vice versa. But, the situations that we've had with the healthcare system, and history and things like that, makes it tough, right, for us to kind of trust. And again, I tell healthcare professionals, you're not establishing trust safety rapport, especially with your Black clients, especially Black men, you're going to have a problem. But I talk about it, how important it is, because I dealt with high blood pressure back in undergraduate in my 20s. And I know it was related to stress because of what I was dealing with. That's why I said I should have gotten to therapy and did some other stuff. And ironically, I'm back dealing with high blood pressure again now. Just not really sure where it's coming from, but it's been kind of stressful the last couple of months with just health and the babies that my children and making sure they good and all stuff like that, my business. And so, but back on medications is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Can't fight it, can't do none of it. I am back exercising and going back to the gym, but it's just one of those things where like if I didn't go get my annual checkup, I wouldn't have caught it. I wouldn't have dealt with it. You know what I'm saying? And
Bro,
so,
you stay in your checker right now. My best friend here, my man Cliff, main man Cliff.
yeah,
Our age, relatively, you see him healthy guy, right? Go
right.
for an eye exam. Or why your blood pressure up?
Yep.
Okay, we go to the hospital right quick and do whatever to get it regulated. Come to find out, bro, they did he had a headache or whatever. Did a CT scan, whatever. He had an actual his tumor on his brain, bro.
Oh, wow.
But if he didn't get the eye exam, they would have never caught
Yeah.
this, they would have never caught that, and then the whole
Yeah.
chain of events. Like he had a whole tumor in his brain. Got
Yeah.
removed recently, thank God. You know, he in recovery right now.
Amen.
Salute for that recovery situation. But the example of like just getting caught by doing the checkup.
Yeah. And I know it's tough, right, to stay up on top of all of this, right? Because, you know, we got families or you're independent, you're working, you're doing your stuff, right? Like we was back and forth between my doctor, my daughter's doctor, my son's doctor, just, you know, making sure everybody was good. But it's like that's one of the things that I pride myself on. I did that back in my 20s, man. Like I'm going to each doctor. I can't see because I got blind as ever. So I got to make sure my eye exam is good. And then I'm going to see my PCP, my primary care doctor. And then I'm going to the dentist because, you know, dentist, if you're not taking care of your teeth, that can also lead to medical conditions as well. All this works hand in hand. And again, it's just about just taking care of yourself, investing into yourself, to making sure that you're well and you can live a long, prosperous life. But also getting on the front side of those areas versus on the back side, right? Because if not, right, I've had my family members pass away to not take care of themselves, right? You know, I got one of my cousins, you know, was like that, and one of my uncles, you know what I'm saying? My other uncle, he was just thorough with it, but he just, you know, after a certain time, you know, things happen. But it's super important. And so if I gotta go on a high blood pressure medication, I don't want to be on there, but you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. I'm on it. We'll figure it out until I can come off or I stay on, whatever.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna do my best to put myself in the best position because again, if not, I don't know these things are happening. And I
right.
think that we forget about it a lot. Also, people don't understand. One of the things I've been doing too for my last speaking engagements, when people ask about mental health or I do like psychoeducation and mental health stuff in the community, I make sure that I tell people that like, yo, check your insurance benefits. If you got insurance, through your employer or agency, check your insurance benefits. What does it cover? Sometimes we paying for insurance through our job. We don't know what it covers, right? So
True.
does it cover your
True.
physical exams? Does it cover your vision exams? Does it cover specialists? Does it cover mental health therapy? Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so ask, and if you don't know, call your representative, ask them and
Yep.
tell them what does this cover? Right. And if it don't cover
Yeah.
everything like it should, open enrollment comes back around twice a year. Make sure
Yep.
you enroll into the right stuff so you can get access to these
Yeah.
things so you can get the checkup on things. I understand a lot of times the Black Americans are struggle with like, you know, not having insurance. So that's one of the barriers. But if
Yep.
you do have insurance, right, we got the Obamacare, we got some other things out there. But it's just one of those things where you just really have to be on your P's and Q's. I know it's another task. I know it's another thing on the list to
Mm-hmm.
just check in and do whatever. I get it. But rather you check in on it now and making sure that you covered versus when it's too late. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so
Yeah.
I've been trying to incorporate that more in my speaking engagement, especially in the Black community around, hey, you got insurance, check your benefits, what it covers, right?
We
So
need
you
to,
can be
man.
covered
We
when it
need to.
comes.
We need to. Yep.
So because we just kind of go, again, normalizing, keep moving, you know what I'm saying, but not checking on things.
And the beauty of your book overall, in the conversation we having right now, it all goes together. Like your self identity,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with relationships, dealing with grief, dealing with the stresses of trying to balance and hold all these things up. And all those things ultimately impact you as the mind, body, spirit that we always talk about. It all impacts your physical. The book called The Body Keeps the Score. Like certain things on your body that's ailing you
Yeah.
come from something emotional or spiritual, and you feeling it in your shoulder, you feel it in your your side or your back or
Yeah.
whatever. You thinking, oh man, this is my back, how I'm sitting. Like, no, you got to address something over here, which is why this is happening. Like it all goes together, bro.
I tell you the one thing about because I do a lot of mind body connection with black men. And Ladarius was talking about sometimes I feel like I can give myself therapy. Sometimes you do need to give yourself therapy, but at the
Yeah,
same time, having a non-biased opinion or approach or somebody, a professional that can walk you through that stuff is beneficial because sometimes we are our own worst enemies. But in the sense of, the mind body connection, I do a lot of mindfulness. And I'm also EMDR trained, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And when I got
like,
trained in that,
yeah,
we had to practice on each other. And when I tell you, right, when I processed some of the divorce stuff, right, I was chill that day. But next thing I know, I could feel we was working through the EMDR process, and I could feel when we start talking about it, the divorce, and just got instantly angry out of nowhere and felt it somewhere in my body. And then we went through the exercise to calm yourself down. And I was so raw emotionally. And that told me right there that how much connection that mind, body, and spirit has to one
yeah,
another.
yes,
That
yes.
even in the place that you think you are okay, you work through that stuff. It might still be some remnants there that might activate it, and you start to feel it somewhere, and you got to work
It's
through it.
just what they call it. It's dormant. It's just dormant.
Yeah, it's
Dormant.
fascinating, which
It is.
confirms to me
It is.
that stress, even though we cannot touch it, take it or move it around like that,
In
it
fact,
impacts us physically
physically,
just as much
it
as it
does.
does mentally.
It does. Before we get out of here and wrap out, I never want to keep anybody this long, but there's so much in this book to cover. Once again, so much to cover between us, man. It's such a great topic.
Yeah.
The most serious show I probably gonna ever have ever in my career. But one last thing. So you, once again, you're trained, clinical, all these years of experience, but in your situations, you still had to go and get an outside therapist.
Yeah.
And you still had a hard time in therapy yourself as a client, even though you had plenty of sessions and all that.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
Because the person would say, sure, you did all this and that. Why you gotta go talk to somebody? Can't you just do yourself? Do your own self thing? Do your own little worksheets? Like it's not that. It's not like that, bro.
Yeah.
It's not how it works.
I I have it's crazy. We talk about the overworking piece and stuff like that. I have developed a place in a situation where I can operate and function past E. So I know how to operate and function past empty. And so that keeps me driving and going. I had to really work through that stuff. And then I said I wouldn't go into doing private practice until I started therapy myself. And I think all therapists should have a therapist or go through therapy before they start practicing and as a private practice or therapist, because the work that we do is hard and we are dealing with people's deepest and darkest secrets. And some of that stuff is hard to shake and get off
Bro,
by yourself.
man, you
I don't
saying a
care
lot right now.
how
Yes,
much training. Yeah.
yes.
And it's
Things that we
ultimately what
seen and being around, like in psych wards, when I'm around in the psych ward, bro, it's like some movie type, like Shutter Island.
yeah. Yeah.
We
It's
around there 60 hours a week
yeah.
for
And
years,
I've worked in
bro,
psych before. I did psych
bro.
inpatient for like 2.5 2 years or whatever, and did crisis right behind it, right? So it's just that work weighs on you. And so it's one of those things where you have to have a place where you can, get stuff off, work through your personal stuff and work through your own stuff that might come out sometimes or might relate. Cause if I'm working with black men, some of the stuff we might be dealing with, I might relate to that. Right. Um, and so yeah, man, but that stretch from 2015 to 2020, remember I told you I should have been in therapy probably undergraduate dealing with the divorce. But I didn't and prolonged it and run the risk of having my family affected by that. So I think for me it was just making sure that I had a non-biased person that was independent of whoever it was to help me process my feelings and thoughts. I had some work I needed to do internally, and so I said I need to get it done. And I kept the therapist probably up until this year recently, where I kind of hit on everything else. Um, but I'm thinking about going back next year, just as a precautionary measure because of stuff that has popped up for me. And then I'm trying to transition into some new spaces. And I said so I'm thinking about going back next year to kind of just, as an extra layer of support
Yeah.
because it's a lot,
You know
right?
what?
Raising a family and
Yeah.
dealing with the
But,
economy and everything going on. So,
you
it's good to have, man. I love therapy. I love being in a space where I could talk to
know,
somebody that look like me and process this. We both social workers, so we kind of got the same mindset.
yeah.
Everything, man. You know what I'm
You
saying?
know,
So he good.
back to our stigmas in the community about not going to therapy, right? I think if you got a spouse, you need therapy. You got kids, you need therapy.
Hmm.
You in this crazy working world right now, you need therapy. Like every check mark, and most of us have all of those things. So
Yeah,
like it's like I don't know who don't need therapy. I don't know one person that don't. You good? You don't need it. You good? I don't know one
yeah.
person like that.
Or some variation from like I know everybody
Yeah,
therapy might not be the end all be all for everybody, but
right.
like
But yeah,
therapy, coaching,
yeah, help.
mentor, like something, man.
Yeah,
Like you need
yeah,
something to process,
yeah,
a group or something like that, a group dynamic, something, right? Because it's just a
yeah.
lot, and you can't make it through this world by yourself. And
No.
luckily, man, I got supports in different spaces. Like I got my spiritual family, my church family. I had my friends and my guys. I got friends that are social workers and therapists. I got friends that don't have nothing to do with mental health. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I got those folks, and it helps me keep me balanced, right? And so I got my wife who's very supportive of me and everything that
yeah,
I do, and has
yeah,
helped me a lot. Talk about her in a book about just getting through some of this stuff. And I told her
right.
like she's a teacher, but I told her she missed the call and she should have been a social worker or therapist. But
Yeah,
just you got to put those people in your life, and if you don't have that, it's tougher, right, to do that. So I know I'm blessed to have these people in my life
yes,
and things like that. But I feel for those who don't have that strong support network, and I
yeah,
just say to them like, hey, therapy is one place, coaching, finding online networks or whatever to kind of help you get supported because again, it's tough out here. People are struggling. People are
yeah,
struggling. And that's why I wanted to write my piece on it where I could be more personal. Just get behind them. Everybody knew me as the advocate or the mental health guy and the social worker. Well, let's get behind that. Let's talk about the real personal stuff. So I can tell you, like, this is what I deal with. Just because I got the credentials don't mean I don't still deal with stuff and
right.
normalize that, right? Because I think a lot of times there are a lot of people out there that are profiting off the pain and struggle of mental health and the
Yes,
buzzword mental health and
yes,
just trying to profit off it because it's the hot new trend thing in there. But people are struggling. People are committing suicide. People are really struggling since this post-pandemic situation, especially our Black people.
yes,
Everybody is not as happy as they say they are, right? And everybody might not go to therapy or talk to somebody. So here's this book.
yeah,
So you can't
yeah,
say I didn't, put out everything I could put out there to help give a resource. I've done therapy. I do the mentoring, supervising. I put books out. I put podcasts out. Doing a podcast now. There's information out there so people can have it and utilize it. And if you ever never speak to me about it, cool. If you ever do, cool. But at least there's some resource there that hey, this is what is out there. And I'll tell you one thing, last thing on this piece, man. Um, it's crazy because I was hooping a couple weeks ago, and one of the guys I used to hoop with years ago in like graduate school back down here had popped up. I had seen his mom. His mom is close to my mom, and seen his mom at a church event I did for mental health last year. And she told me who she was, and I was like, yeah, how he's doing and what's going on. Knew the brother, things like that, hoop with them, right? And she was like, well, I'm gonna buy a book for him because he's dealing with some stuff, just came a father, things like that, trying to figure things out. I said, cool, yeah, give him the book, show him the book, da 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 da. And so a couple weeks ago, we hooping. He pop in. I said, what's good, bro? How you been, man? It's been a long time no see. You know what I'm saying? Good. And he just looked at me and he was like, bro, he was like, your book has been a blessing. It's almost like the Bible for me.
Come on now. Yeah,
Everything that I'm doing.
come on
And
now.
and
Yeah,
I was just like,
yes,
hey, yo,
Yes.
Like that's crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not comparing my book to the Bible. I never would do that.
Yeah. I get it.
Um,
I get
but
it.
to hear somebody say like that the words in that space resonated with them so
Impact.
much that it's
Impact.
helping them get through life a little bit better.
I agree. I agree.
It's
I
nothing else.
co-sign. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
there's
I agree.
there's no comparing to that, man.
I agree.
Like, I don't
No.
care how many books I sell.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. Impact. Impact.
Impact. Yeah,
Impact. It's all
yeah.
about impact. So before
So
we get out of here, man, tell them where they can get it, where they can access it, but also plug them to your podcast, man. Put them on again to the podcast too, man.
yeah. So you can get the book off Amazon right now. Amazon Refresh Journey 5 Pieces, also on Books a Million and Barnes and Noble right now. And also you can go to my podcast, which is called the G Taylor Podcast, where I talk about a lot of this stuff, mental health, my stuff, social work, everything.
I'm gonna check
And
that.
just kind
I'm
of,
gonna check that.
yeah, all the type of different things, and that's on Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever your digital streaming platforms is on. Also on YouTube as well, the G Taylor Show. Trying to figure out what I want to do with that, but it's a lot of stuff on there around things we talked about today, man. So,
Okay,
Sean, I
man.
appreciate you and
No, no,
everything that you
no.
got
Thank
going on,
you.
man.
I appreciate you, man, with everything you got going on. You're a busy, busy man. But this work is very, very important. This book is monumental. Once again, anybody watching this video, you're a female, get it for the guys in your life. A lot of us are struggling in silence. We're going through it in silence, man. We need these conversations, bro. So thank you very much being that transparent with your life and your family and exposing things like that. That's monumental, bro. Thank you very much. I salute, man.
Yes, sir. Salute to you, brother, for having me, man. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Peace, peace,
Yes,
bless.
yes, sir.